Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Zone to Speak podcast. We're your hosts, Debbie
and Juliana.
In the day and age of cycling today, they're winning. These young cyclists are coming in on the podiums. And
something that relates to the podcast today, right, on psychology, the mental strength and how do you prepare, not just to race at such a young age, but to deal with the press, to deal with failure, at being a teenager, basically, young adults. It's hard to deal our age.
I agree. I think that does take maturity and experience. There's a benefit when they're younger because there's less fear and there's an unknown, so they just kind of go for it.
This day and age now, everything has evolved, including psychology. So I believe all the teams, they have a psychologist working with them.
Well, they're also seeing that mental health is huge right now and that you need to have something in place.
Yeah.
Mental stability. People don't like to talk about things that way. It's hard. It's tough. You'll see some people in the peloton who are a little bit more open. If you saw Unchained, Ben O'Connor, he's being vulnerable. He's showing a side of himself.
I think it's important to show that side. Or, since we're in the Olympics, Noah Tyler won the 200 meter man, talking about how he struggles with depression as well. Yep. I think it's important to talk about those points too that regular people go through. But when you see those super strong athletes winning, you don't think they have problems.
They can't be scared. They're just so focused.
Okay, Dimitris just finished. He's joining.
Okay. I'm starting that zone 2 training.
Cool. I have some equipment that I can also share with you when you are ready to do some bikepacking.
I'm going to do my passport photo today after we're done. I know. I don't want to book anything until I get that
just
back.
Get everything done.
And then we're going to plan episodes when we're together.
It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait to show you around here.
I can't wait to go. I know I need to start doing some graveling here.
But here, the gravel, there's so many super smooth gravel. They call champagne gravel. I don't know if the U.S. use the same. But they call champagne gravel road.
He's here. Okay, let me let him in.
Hello, look who's here.
How are you?
Well, good to see you. You can see Debbie, my co-host. Dimitris and I go way back from my time in Dubai. But
nice.
You will come at some point. I'm sure Juliana has told you about the cycling tracks here.
She has, and she sent lots of pictures and videos. They don't have that kind of setup in Miami. And then you have to contend with a lot of the traffic.
True.
Do you cycle?
I don't. Last time I did it was in Al Qudra racetrack, I went for the 50 kilometers route. Juliana, you know the one. And I did it in a swimsuit and flip-flops, so I don't cycle. And then I couldn't sit for a week, basically, because
for sure you did more effort than anyone else in that track, because with flip-flops and not proper shorts, it
was right after a swim. I was okay, let's go for cycling. Let's go.
Why not?
This year I'm 42, so I was thinking, okay, I need to do something symbolic. 42 kilometers of a marathon, right? And the thing is that when I decided to do it, I was 42 weeks away from the marathon. Right. But the thing is that 1 month after training, I went to Georgia for skiing. And I had an accident where I broke my ligaments, my kneecaps. I won't do this marathon this year. But next year I'm going to do 43 kilometers because I'll be 43. So I'll do marathon the last one.
Multitasking now.
So I'm going to do the intro and then we can dive into the questions. Welcome to today's episode of Zone to Speak. I am thrilled to have you join us as we dive into an insightful conversation with an exceptional guest, Dimitris Kalogirou. He has helped multinational businesses and global organizations reinvent themselves and become more innovative by using design thinking methods and tools. After a particularly turbulent time in his life, he had this idea. What if I redesign the tools and methods I use to transform businesses to reinvent myself? With that, it was the birth of Design Thyself, a psychology-based insights and tools that help you design a meaningful and healthier life. Dimitris is a visionary leader and an innovator with a wealth of experience and knowledge in psychology. Throughout his career, Dimitris has demonstrated a unique ability to combine strategic thinking with hands-on execution, making him a driving force in his field. Through Design Thyself, his impact has been profound. and his insights are invaluable. Today, we'll be exploring how psychology impacts athletes and how we can better deal with our minds. So, without further ado, welcome Dimitris to the show.
Thank you very much.
Welcome,
and really, thank you
Dimitris.
for having me. And I don't know how I'm going to make it up after this beautiful introduction.
You have helped me so much. We met through work on your time in corporate and my time in corporate. And I remember reaching out to you when you started Design Thyself, and you helped me so much with public speaking, working with different personalities. And I carry this throughout today. Very important tools that you can apply in your daily lives in so many aspects, not in just at work. So tell us more about you building this brand, Design Thyself.
Yeah, thank you. So as you mentioned in the introduction, I built Design Thyself as an outcome of one of the sessions that I had actually with one client in the corporate world, a multinational organization. We were having a workshop. And the head of marketing of that organization, the CMO, took me on the side during a break, and he told me, what you're doing is business psychology. It's not business design. And then something in me just clicked, it just clicked because I wanted to do psychology from a young age. I wanted to go and study psychology actually when I was in high school. But I was always scared because I felt that psychology is something that I need to have as a passion, because if I follow it as a work, then I'll stop to be passionate about it. So I kind of had this fear of, okay, let me not go to psychology now. Let me do other things that I feel I'm capable of doing. So that's why I explored the avenues of creativity and business in some cases, and left psychology on the outside. But when this guy told me this thing, just clicked. I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to do it. So that's when I started redesigning these tools that I use for businesses to be applicable to people. And that's when I started coaching. And, we had these discussions, as you mentioned before. And I was so hungry for knowledge because I found that coaching is a great tool if you want to solve for specific substrata of problems. But if you want to go deeper and explore, the deeper complexities of psyche, then you have to have, deeper knowledge. And that's why I went into psychology as well. So yeah, that's how I started building this on the side business that I have. And it's a fascinating journey. First of all, it helps me become better. And then I try to share what I learned through this journey. That's the aim.
Yeah, absolutely. We learn so much by sharing.
Yeah.
I learned that coaching as well. But then when we talk about cycling or being an athlete in general, how do you think psychology, we know psychology plays a big deal on the performance. What are your thoughts there on challenges and how can be impacted positively or negatively depending on your psyche?
I would say that in general, understanding where you're coming from and understanding the algorithm that plays in your head will help you not only overcome mental challenges as an athlete, but as a person in general, because if you deeply dive into those intricate worlds that live within you, then you become a better person, and then you become a better father, mother, friend, colleague, and then you become a better athlete, and you become better in whatever you want to do because you understand how your entity works. And the thing is, why I call it entity is because we have this false perception that we are one person, while within this, let's say, entity, we have different personalities, different sub-personalities that pulls us towards different directions. So to understand how all these things work together, then you are able to focus attention and you're able to overcome whatever you want to overcome. But if we're to talk about athleticism, and if we're to talk about what are some of the challenges that psychology can help us overcome, we have to become more specific, I would say more academic in a sense, and make some certain categorizations, because we have to talk about amateur athletes and we have to talk about professional athletes, because even though the underlying mechanism of how we overcome these challenges is the same, the causes and the roots might differ. Because, for example, if you are, let's say, an amateur athlete, one of the things that you might be troubled or challenged by would be, how do you compare yourself to others when you go to a race? Okay, I'm going to fail because it's the first time I'm doing it. While if you're a professional athlete, you have a different subset of, let's call them, challenges. And for the pressure that you have from sponsors or from media. or to maintain the world record that you did last year. So breaking down these categories and understanding where you fit and understanding what's your challenge, that will help you overcome it. And if we think about it, both, I think, professional and amateur athletes would have this performance anxiety, I would say. How do I improve my records? And it's a different thing if you can reframe this performance anxiety, because performance anxiety, I mean, it might also be applicable to sex, right? It's the same thing that many men have. Okay, let's link it now. So if we break down performance anxiety into its fundamental basis, the main question that we would need to answer is, okay, what would happen if I fail? That's the thing that is underlying, or what would happen if I do not perform? And if we dig even deeper, we would see that the ground upon which this structure of thinking is based is nothing else than the fear of rejection, if we deeply think about it. Right?
It's really, we're not...
Yeah.
We can deal with our own failure there of not performing and say we can try again. We're so worried about what the other person's going to feel and how that's going to make us react the next time we try.
Yeah, and how they're going to see us.
It's a lot of expectations.
Yeah, and the story we tell ourselves, I guess, from what I'm listening, what is the story you're telling yourself as well? Are there some techniques or strategies to build this mental resilience, to build this positive story, to less fearful or not impacted by rejection?
Yeah, we can form it any way we want in that sense, because if we can learn to overcome these fears, we can learn to overcome these challenges. We can utilize that in every aspect of our life, like you said, as a mother, as an athlete. No matter what you're doing in your life, we can utilize it that way. We can take everything we've learned if we're willing to. And that goes to another length, because I think the willingness has to come from within us to be able to handle or to tackle any challenges that come to us. Because some people have different personalities. Some people just instantly go into fight or flight and reject that. And we'll just push it down. And that stuff just builds more and more anxiety. That can build on to performance anxiety. If we can learn to let go of that fear and not worry so much, because in the end, these other people that we may be disappointing or what's causing us more anxiety, in the end, they're not the one who is in our body who has to keep going through this. It's us. So even though we can say we're being selfish by taking care of ourselves, you have to be. You have to be selfish to take care of yourself, because in essence, you are going to be taking care of other people that way too.
Yeah. And there's this misconception about, taking care of oneself and putting yourself first. Conception about, being egotistic or being self-centered. It depends on how you see self-awareness and this, let's say, domain of taking care of the self, because the reason why you should be taking care of yourself first is so that you can share yourself with others. And you want to share a healthy version of you. You don't want to share an unhealthy version of you, because then this extrapolates and it affects other people negatively or positively, depending on what you choose to share. So I completely, especially whenever this talk comes up about, taking care of myself, is it self-centered? No, it's not. If you use this time to take care of yourself so that you can then share yourself with others, and this feeling that you have from your grounded self. I think now we're expanding more than the question.
Like they say, self-care. It's termed self-care for a reason. It's a PC way of saying doing something nice for ourselves. So in essence, we take that selfishness out of our mindset. So when somebody's like, I'm doing self-care, it's also, I'm letting myself off the hook because I'm taking care of myself.
To tie it back to the mental challenges that an athlete might facing, right? You have the performance anxiety, like we said, but then you have another thing, which might be burnout. And if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't focus your attention to yourself the same way you focus your attention doing an intense workout, you might burn out. And you might burn out because Again, if you're an amateur, you might be juggling with responsibilities like, work,
Family.
kids at school, family.
Yeah.
So you cannot focus 100% on everything. Right. You have to have this diffused focus on everything, which causes a burnout yourself. Or if you're a professional athlete, and then you have those intense training schedules, you travel, and maybe your sleep is impacted, which plays a role. And it is part of taking care of yourself. Then this is also another aspect of that. So
yeah, and athletes go through this just as much as the everyday person does.
Exactly. Yeah. And as an athlete, you have also one more reason to be taking care of yourself because of injuries. The same way you would protect yourself against injuries, the same way you need to protect yourself against mental injuries.
That is stress. That is not getting enough sleep. That is just adding one thing on top of the other, not expressing yourself, not taking care of yourself.
If we take biology and you extrapolate psychology from biology, let's take this fear, for example, of injuries that we mentioned, the injury aspect, right? So let's focus on the body first. What happens when I'm an athlete and I have an injury? Then what I develop is what we call kinesiophobia. Kinesis, movement, and phobia. So the psychological fear that comes after an injury, which is basically when the brain associates certain movements or even certain sports sometimes with the fear of injury. This is what causes kinesiophobia. It's a biological way of your brain protecting your body because that's why your brain is there to protect you as an entity. And this kinesiophobia is happening because the brain tries to avoid any future injuries for the specific area that got injured.
I guess that's why sometimes you actually injure, for example, if you have a right leg injury, you ended up injuring the left one because you're overusing.
So this is what you, Juliana, what you just said. This is called muscle guarding, which is basically when the brain tenses up or contracts certain muscles to protect the injured area from more damage. And this muscle guarding can lead to movement alterations. Basically, what you just said, I put more pressure on my left leg because my right is injured. Therefore, this compensation creates more injury. And this, if we take it to the extreme, can cause motor inhibition, which is basically that certain motor pathways, just the brain bypasses them and creates new motor pathways so that it doesn't injure this area even after the injury has passed. So to tie with what we were discussing before, this whole process of pain memory, kinesiophobia, muscle guarding, movement alteration, and motor inhibition, this is the biological level, right? What happens when when my brain tries to protect an injury, but the same thing happens at the psychological level. Because when you have a trauma, your brain will create so many different bypasses so that you don't touch the trauma.
Scenarios or excuses.
Exactly. So going back to the mental resilience, I think it will be evident throughout our talk that I like to take examples from the biology and then extrapolate it to psychology, because for me, it's one of the same.
I love it, though. It is. It's amazing how that goes hand in hand. It really does.
Yeah, it makes it easier to understand, too, what's happening, body-mind connection.
And a lot of people like to be told how everything works, how the body works. Because if we understand how the body works, it explains how the mind works.
It's a two-way thing, It has, and I'm sure that you guys that you're, more into exercising at a higher level than an everyday person, you are experimenting with ideas of how your mind might affect your body and how your body might affect your mind. So it's a two-way street. And it's fascinating because we have been traditionally conditioned, especially in the Western medical world, to think as the body as something that needs to be fixed independently of the mind. But this is a misconception that nowadays psychiatrists, neurologists, and physiologists are trying to break down, because it's actually one system. It's not that one is independent of the other. And when it comes to strategies to overcome these, let's call them challenges, the same way you would overcome a biological challenge, the exact same way, the principle is the same way you would overcome a psychological challenge. So, for example, if you have an injury and then you're going to rehabilitation, what the physiotherapists try to do is to gradually expose you to more challenging movements around the area that is injured.
You strengthen the muscle again and learn to reuse it and utilize it in a different way and take care of yourself, and that it can only strengthen you overall.
Exactly.
Same as mentally.
Mm-hmm. Same as mentally. In psychology, there are so many different modalities that you can follow, but one that follows this same pathway, let's say, is symbiotic cognitive behavioral therapy, which is slowly reintroducing you to past traumas and tries to make you overcome your fears and your thoughts that are associated with this trauma in order to improve your mental resilience around this specific topic. So again, if we have a parallel between biological and psychological, it's the same thing. Same thing as your physio would expose you into different levels of difficulty for your injury. Same way CBT, for example, is exposing you to different psychological challenges in order to overcome them. So we can see how intricately those are linked.
I also seen even some coaches now putting visualization on your training schedule. How do you think that plays a role on athletes' mind, for example, to overcome anxiety or to be more relaxed about performance?
Visualization is something that helps a lot because it links when you think about something, when you're lost in the world of thoughts, right? If the world of thoughts has no space and has no time. Then when you go into the world of actions, the actions world has space and time defined. So visualization, you can think of it as the bridge between those two, between the world of thoughts and the world of actions. And visualization is really helpful because it can help you predetermine narratives that are going to play out when you are racing, for example. And this can prevent anxiety. If we can break it down to its fundamental level, is from having one expected narrative, then you have the breakdown of this narrative, and you have a multitude of narratives emerging, and you have to choose which one to follow so to protect yourself. That's anxiety. Exactly.
But you have to change the mindset. It's like as if you parted something in the middle, there's an empty space there where you can create a whole new narrative.
You create whole new narrative, exactly. And you create narratives by anticipating what's going to happen. That helps you with mental clarity. It helps you with breaking down the complexities of the real world, imagining them. It helps you breaking down the complexities into manageable buckets. It helps you build confidence, right? Because with positive imagery, it gives you confidence. Maybe, I don't know, now that we're talking about cycling, you're visualizing how the track goes and you improve your tactics and strategy before they even happen.
Right.
Or you anticipate that, this climb, I'm expecting to feel this. So with visualization, you can pre-program in a way what you will feel in the moment. So this is what we call kinesthetic visualization. And basically, it's where you imagine not only the visual aspects of your performance, but also actual bodily sensations. How is your body going to be positioned? How is going to be your balance? How's your movement? How smooth are you going to pedal at each step of the route? And it also, now we talk previously
if you have a flat tire, what am I going to do? Do I have all the tools?
Exactly. And also, since we talk about injury as well, it has been shown that visualization helps a lot with recovery and rehabilitation.
Wow.
So it's not only the practicalities of the race. It's also what happens, when you're injured or unforeseen things. That's why the world of thoughts and the world of actions, you create this bridge with visualization, and you're able to connect them. If you're an athlete and if you're competing, and if you want the optimal performance you can have, then the same way you're working out with your body, the same way, as we said, you need to work out with your mind. The visualization is one of these workouts that you need to incorporate in your routine.
And it has to be, I'm trying to visualize this in a way that the actual individual can do this best. We can tell somebody, so we're blue in the face. You can visualize something beautiful that if that doesn't resonate and connect with that person, it won't work.
Right.
We have to break it down into a way that it does work for them.
Exactly.
Can you visualize? You can understand what it's like when you change a flat, that when you're prepared what that feeling brings back to. Or like you said, visualizing something that you know is tough. Visualize yourself at the end, getting through it and feeling no matter what happened or what, you're just visualizing the end. I achieved this. I can't believe I did this for myself. I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah.
And that way at the end, you're like, I still completed this. It may not have been, I may not have won. It doesn't matter. It's all about, I can do this. I can do this. From my standpoint, it's hard for me. I go to therapy and I do manifestations lately. And at first I said, this isn't going to work for me. I can't meditate. I can't say this stuff. I did start saying, okay, I'm going to resonate with something, manifest something that does connect with me. And I have to tell you, I can't go through my days without doing it now. And I am a happier person. If I notice somebody putting themselves down in front of me, I say, no, you're better than that.
Yeah.
No, we got to talk better to ourselves. And I was the first person to look in the mirror and say, ew, who are you?
And you open so many subjects.
Right. There's right. But it's so funny how all of this connects with however we can visualize, however we can strategize, however we can face mental challenges. It's that we have to build our groundwork first.
Yes.
And part of that is self-love, self-worth, manifesting how we want to feel, how we want to be treated, because it's going to make us feel better. It's going to make us treat other people the way we want to be treated and understood. I know this is going all full circle, but it connects.
It connects beautifully, because what I've written down is, what if you have problems with meditation and keeping still, which many people do, about visualizing the end that is intricately linked with motivation. Then you also talk about how to talk better to yourself, right? So let's try and unpack this whole universe that you laid out there. That is all connected. I was going to ask
for that. Let's unpack.
Yeah, I love this.
It's
Let's
beautiful.
do it.
So I would say, you mentioned that you had problems with meditation at first and you didn't want to do it. So there are many people who are struggling with meditation. Many of my close friends are asking me, how can you do meditation? I mean, it's frustrating, whatever. Yeah, I understand how it can be frustrating. And I would say that if it's difficult for you to practice meditation, I would say start with practicing NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. So if you Google on YouTube, NSDR protocol, which is basically
I'm going to write that down. NSDR protocol.
NSDR is basically the closest thing to adding more REM sleep to your system while being awake. And it's the first step, let's say, towards meditation.
Powerful.
One would argue. Yeah, it's powerful because it can also give you relaxation and rest and fast recovery. Then there are some protocols, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. It's a guided protocol that helps you focus on your body and your sensations. Body resting, mind working is basically what kind of is like a false replica of REM sleep. But it works. The second thing you mentioned is when you visualize the end and you see the end of the race, right? And this is so much linked with motivation, with different motivation techniques, because there are days that you are going to have motivation, but there are days that you're going to hit this motivation wall, as we call it, where in the middle of your effort or somewhere there, you're like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Here's the interesting thing. When you have motivation, you need to visualize the end of the race and how you're going to feel. I'm sitting there, taking 5 minutes, I'm doing the race, visualizing it, I'm winning. How is this going to make me feel? That's the primary question to motivate yourself when you want to do the practice. But what happens when you don't want to do the practice? Because that's a problem.
I was going to say that too.
But for me, when you're talking about the visualizing the end, I think if we unpack that one into small baby steps, and when people say, well, how do you stay motivated? And it's not just motivation, obviously it's discipline, but the discipline comes with that motivation. Actually, now I'm realizing, because I'm just connecting to how I feel after I do a training, because even when I'm tired or I don't feel like it, I do it because I know I will feel great. I know what's the feeling afterwards.
I'll give you a tip.
True.
This is a mind trick that I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
So when you don't feel motivated, instead of visualizing how good you're going to feel when you complete the exercise, the workout, the race, When you don't feel motivated, visualize how bad you're going to feel if you don't do it.
That's true.
But when it comes to motivation, when you feel you want to do it and you want to excel, you're thinking about how you're going to feel when you finish the workout. But when you don't want to do it, when you, these days, I just don't want to go to the gym. If you spend 5 minutes to think how bad you're going to feel when you don't do it, it has been clinically proven that it's enough to motivate you to go and do it. There is the reverse one.
I'm going to try that. I want to work out right now, just thinking about it.
Yeah, I know, right? I know.
Yeah. So then you talked about some examples of visualization. And the way I would say it, I wouldn't limit it only to the end goal, because the end goal is something that should not define how hard you want to work for something, because it's an extrinsic factor. It's an extrinsic reward. Find the intrinsic reward of what we call the process, right? So when you're doing your visualization, you have to think along these lines as well. So you spend 5-10 minutes visualizing, and you start with the pre-race routine that you have. When you wake up this day of the race, what are you going to do? What are you going to have for breakfast? How are you going to travel to the race venue? How are you going to warm up? How are you going to line up to the starting line? How are you going to feel when you see the rest of the people around you? So when you visualize, you go through the entire process. Then comes the race execution. You're mentally prepared for the race. So you're visualizing the course. You know the milestones, the climbs and the descents, where they are. You know when you want to sprint. You know when you want to pace more strategically to maintain your
Conserve your energy.
Conserve your energy, exactly. So you think the entire thing. You don't just think of the end. You think the entire process.
It's like your big picture, right?
Yeah, you think the big picture. Exactly.
So you talk to us about, staying motivated, dealing with fear and stress, injury. How about when you are on a race? I'm talking amateur level. I think most of our listeners are amateur level. And you hit a wall or you're just like on your last drop of energy. Is there any mental game that you can tell yourself, visualize? What technique is there for someone to overcome?
You mean the fatigue that you may feel during the race?
Fatigue, or maybe, everybody already passed me, I'm last, or you are on the front and you are like, oh my God, I'm hitting a wall.
Yeah, like, I don't know how much longer I can do this.
The most important thing that actually didn't find it is this book that I have here. It's called The Presence Process.
Okay.
And the most important thing that I got out of this book is breathing. How breathing can help you with all these situations.
At that moment, you probably have to just stop and breathe and say,
don't stop though.
Yeah, what am I? Right, exactly. Not stop, but stop in our mind for a moment and stop thinking, I can't, what's going to happen? And just.
Yeah. So, Debbie, how do you control this panic, this mental panic?
So let me be clear and specific enough to say that we usually look for strategies and ideas that will help us cope with XYZ, but all these things that we're discussing might have a different reason of why they appear to me than why they appear to you, why they appear to Debbie, why they appear to, XYZ person. So there's no take one pill and it will fix you all. It doesn't work like that. And we need to go deeper for each individual, because breathing is what helps you keep yourself grounded and what helps you return to the present moment. That's why the presence process here. So this guy has an amazing technique that I've been following for the past 3 years, and it works every single time. The presence process, Michael Brown. It's amazing. So this guy helps you keep pace of yourself and of your breathing by saying a simple phrase. You breathe in, I. You breathe out, M. You breathe in, here.
I am here.
I'm here in this right now. So each word is an inhalation or an exhalation. I'm here in this right now. You can make it shorter phrases. And
I think
use it
everybody's taking a deep breath right now.
I think so too. And you know what? It's not threatening in any way. It doesn't feel like it's something being pushed on you. It does feel like a nice deep breath to get back to you.
I practice it even when I'm at work and I'm working on my laptop. I do the breathing in through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. That's important as well. And when I am in a stressful situation, it's like I was about to say cassette, but now I think your generations might not know what a cassette is. But it's like, it plays on repeat.
It's an autoplay.
We know.
It's an autoplay because we're talking earlier about connecting the mind and the body, right? And the physical and the mental. So by mentally repeating the phrase and physically adjusting your breathing on the pace of the phrase, when the stressful situation comes, you'll be able to do this automatically. So there will be a muscle memory in a way. Mm-hmm. But if you want to go deeper and explore more, let's say, techniques to push through that wall, let's say during endurance event, you can also focus on visual targets. You can have specific visual milestones that help you break down the effort into more manageable segments. So first we have the breathing, that's mental preparation, physical with the breathing. Then you go setting visual targets. And the last that I would say when you hit that wall is not in my domain, but I've been reading a lot of neurology-based journals lately, is switching your fuel resources. When we engage into physical activity, our body changes its state, and according to different states that we are, we use different resources. So you see even many athletes now, from what I've been reading in these studies, they used to do the carb loading phase before the race, right?
Yes.
Now they're doing carb loading and ketones load before the race, because, for example, when they have a certain pace and you cycle at a certain pace, let's say your body takes fuel from a certain source. Then if you speed up the pace, that source will change. So it will give you some extra boost, or maybe if you lower your pace. So this is something that it's not in my domain. I cannot talk, in depth about that, but something I've been reading, and it's really fascinating because it shows you how you can use your biology's sources of energy based on the different states that you are, and how you can alter the state that you are during a race to tap into different fuel sources.
You cannot do that consciously, right? It's something that your body's doing.
No, it's not conscious, exactly.
Absolutely.
I thought that went to a whole other level that I'd never thought about or used before too, and it's going to come into play, especially with the deep breathing and the presence process. Because
it's a different game for me. It changed the game, honestly. And you know what? I feel when I'm going to get sick, because I start breathing more through the mouth. What I try to consciously do is every day breathe through the nose and exhale through the mouth. But when I start inhaling through the mouth, then I know that I'm going to be sick, and my body switches.
Funny, because your body's so used to doing this. You're so conscious of it.
Yeah, but so this is something I need to look into, because why does my body switch to mouth inhalation? I need to search. I don't know the answer. But it's fascinating, because then I do get sick.
No, but everybody breathes differently that way too, because you'll see there's different techniques and videos that they'll show you how to breathe in. They make it look so easy, and it's a practice. So that's what they don't tell you. They don't show you the process, and that's where it can be misleading for a lot of people, is that you're showing the before or the after, but you're not showing what all that process and what all that challenge and what goes into the preparation, what goes into the constant building of our self-esteem and self-worth, the breathing techniques. There's so much more in there.
And you also understand the good yoga instructors from the bad ones, because the good ones are going to focus on teaching you the breathing at each pose that they're showing you.
Yeah.
As you do the movement.
As you do the movement. So the same way, when I started for my marathon, the second time that I tried to start prepare for a marathon, I searched about proper breathing for long distance.
Yeah.
And again, it's not one that you so many. I crashed the algorithm of YouTube as I saw so many videos around that. And the thing that you need to tailor it to your body. You
Yeah.
need to tell it. There's no. That's why I said there's no one pill fits all for many of the things that we're discussing. There are some guidelines, but if you want to go deeper into specifics, you have to do a lot of work by yourself or with a physician or with a therapist. You have to put in the effort. But now I want to ask you something.
Yes.
Because we're discussing about how do you go through the wall, how do you push the limits, how do you push through.
Mm-hmm.
So have you ever wondered, why am I pushing myself so much?
Yeah.
Yeah, why do we do this?
Why am I doing? That's a good question. Why am I doing this?
From my personal experience, I would have to equate it with sort of the first experience you have with something.
Okay.
So if it's a really good experience, we're able to push ourselves more in that realm.
Mm-hmm.
Or we gravitate more towards experiences that we were introduced to that were positive that way. I used to be a dancer, and I just remember pushing my body in different ways too, because there was so much joy, there was so much growth. There was a challenge mentally as well as physically. So it was something moving in both senses. It was a full body experience. I think that's why a lot of people push ourselves, because it not only pushes us physically, it mentally challenges us. And from that, I mean, if we're cognizant of it, which I know I am, learn so much, and I always love to take in whether I felt really bad about it. Why did I treat myself so badly? Why did I push myself so hard then when I didn't need to? We do that. And those are the hard questions we have to ask ourselves, because we can't get past that. We can't move from that if we don't ask ourselves and stop and find out why. Because sometimes there isn't really a reason. We're just like, because this is what I do.
Yeah,
I'm used to doing this.
I think was the first person to climb Everest, or all 8,000ers, George, can't remember the last name, I'm sorry. And then he was asked the question, why do you climb the mountains? And he said, because they are there. But for myself, I think it's a different journey for me, why I do it. I think I started cycling. I loved it. And then some girls on the team that I joined were doing triathlon. I started doing triathlon. And as a child and teenager, I was always very skinny and very clumsy. So when I started doing triathlons, for me now I see it was a little bit of an ego, because I'm doing something that I never thought I could do it before. But then I started doing it for me. But I think I really pushed myself to get somewhere, because I wanted to prove so badly that I was capable, where now I'm like, I just want an adventure. So I enter all these races, but it's mainly because there is an organization. I get there is a route, there's like-minded people, and it's so much fun, but I'm not after anything besides seeing a new country, riding my bike, meeting like-minded people, and seeing beautiful views, eat a lot of food to keep the body going, because you are riding, 15, 20 hours a day for 3, 4, 5 days. And sometimes you're like, oh my God, why did I sign up for this? I'm so tired. But
visualize that nice bed in the beach at the end.
Yeah, or breathe. I have to breathe and be in here. I am here in this right now.
I am here in this right now.
What is interesting for me is to tie your, let's say, cycling adventure back to some psychological realm, let's say. And what I heard from Debbie is along the lines of finding meaning and purpose. And what I heard from Juliana is developing courage and risk taking, which both of them can lead you into greater insights about yourself. So asking the question, why do I push myself so hard when I train? Why do I push myself when cycling, when running, when swimming, whatever? If you're able to be truthful to yourself and answer this question, it can lead you to greater revelations about yourself. Because if we go to Debbie's example, for example, the thing about meaning, one might say that understanding this, larger significance of what you're doing can not only enhance your motivation and make you keep doing it, as you said, but it also aligns your actions towards a thing that is greater than yourself. And I think it was Pablo Picasso who said, meaning is to find your gift and purpose is to share it. So if you can find your meaning through cycling and if you can share it with others, that's fascinating. If this question can lead you to revelations that are related to that. And to Juliana's
You're
point
making me
about,
cry.
but does it resonate with you?
It does. I
That's
wanted
great.
to ask you about something. I was listening to on Instagram. You had a post there that was about finding what makes you happy and changing your path.
Yeah.
And when you finally do that, it's something just fills you up. And it's not because anybody else can do that for you, because I know for me, I would connect or grab onto different things. This'll do it. This'll work. This'll work. No, if I just do that, if I just do this, nothing did it.
It's true.
It would be given space.
Yeah. But when Jules and I kind of brought out kind of the idea of let's do a podcast, it was like, yeah, we both love cycling. But what I heard in all of it was, oh my God, we're just going to talk. And every time we have a talk, that's a good memory for me because I always get so much from her. She's changed so much. I love watching her evolution in life, everything. It's just, I feel so safe with her as a person, as a friend, as a woman. And it's hard to trust sometimes and put myself out there. And I was so scared. I kept saying, oh, I can do the creative part. I could come up with logos. I could do all this stuff. And then it was like, let's record. There was so much fear and expectation. I can't do this. I can't do this. I know I'm capable. I know I can. I know I want to. But why am I so scared? And Jules, we recorded it and she pressed publish. And my first thought was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like, I'm going to have a panic attack right now. And then I go, breathe, just listen. And I listened. And I can't even tell you the smile that came over my face. It was like when I saw my children for the first time.
It's our baby.
Yeah.
Because
Her baby was
sharing.
birthed. And I felt something very special. I felt something very special that I feel every time we record. There's a fear, there's an excitement, but so much joy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional.
No.
I'm sorry.
Let it be. Because
I really
sharing...
love doing this. I think this has been my favorite thing that I've ever done, other than becoming a mother. And I've barely been doing this, and I'm not very great at it.
You are great at it.
I really like getting an opportunity to talk to somebody like you and share this way. And I'm being super vulnerable right now, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the thing with purpose, right? When you're sharing your gift, you're becoming vulnerable, because linking it back to the initial part of our discussion, becoming vulnerable has always the threat of the fear of rejection.
Yeah.
So this whole thing connects, and your quest to find meaning in life and finding your gift and then sharing your gift through this podcast creates the same environment of vulnerability that, what's going to happen, how it's going to be, and this fear that comes with it. So it's totally understandable. Everything links together, and sit with the emotion, don't try to do anything with it. Just sit with it and then enjoy it.
It's a good cry.
It's a good cry. It's
It's an extremely good cry.
Yeah. And going to Juliana now. Where her reply was around developing courage and risk taking. So how does trying new things, trying new approaches, how does taking on a difficult challenge that no one in your immediate environment has ever taken before? How does standing up for your values, how does that resonate with you, Juliana?
Yeah, I think that I finally started believing in myself, because before, I guess, because I was this skinny, clumsy kid, I was never picked on high school volleyball team, for example. I was always the last one to be picked on, I guess. And then I finally started to be like, you know what? I'm capable. You know what? I can do this, because before I was like, I can't do sports. I'm not good at anything. It started to feel really good. And now I do have the courage to try different things, right? So I went from triathlon to developing more in my mountaineering, alpine climbing, and then now I'm doing ultra cycling and enjoying.
Nutrition,
nothing to
coaching.
prove.
I mean,
True.
she inspires me constantly. You're so strong, so brave.
Thank you.
So you see how
I
both
don't see myself that way, but I never put fear in the equation when I'm making a decision. So when I left my corporate job as well, I wasn't thinking of fear.
You were visualizing that you're going to be okay.
Yeah, everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And how beautifully both of these domains, finding meaning and developing courage, how beautifully they link with both of your answers of why you're doing this.
There's a reason why I'm doing this with Jules, because she is that person. She catches me. I can grab her. There's so many different strengths that when they come together, it's like magical. And
yeah, I can see.
Yeah, there's no ego in our relationship, I have to say.
Absolutely not.
We tell each other feedback here on the podcast, just to talk about the podcast, for example. There are many aspects of our friendship, but we want to do well and we rely on each other's strengths. And yeah, it is definitely a safe space, and I'm happy with our friendship. And what brought us together was a sport. So here we go, full circle.
It was. It's funny how that happens.
One of the things that I didn't cover based on Debbie's first questions is how do you talk to yourself defines the outcome.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
You mentioned it, right?
I mean, it can be something so small that we say in between. I'm not physically capable. I'm not mentally worthy. Or I can say that about myself. I would love to do a podcast. I would love to get out there, but who's going to listen to me? Right. That stuff right there is your little way of putting yourself down, which is normal. That kind of stuff can invade the most positive person. It's tough. There's so many people out there. If we focus on everybody else rather than ourselves and what we're just trying to put out there, it's hard to succeed that way.
Yeah.
We have to focus. We have to really hone in, like you said, breathe, come back to our present self and say, who are we doing this for? We're doing this for ourselves. And when we're in this room, this is for us. And whatever comes out of it, we get to share that with the world. And that's special. If we look at it in a different format, I don't know, maybe it won't feel the same.
Yeah.
Probably not for me too. I can't look at it that way. When I get into this room, I'm so focused on you right now, the guest, Juliana, and just getting the opportunity to have that conversation now and be present.
We're on top of the hour here, but I just wanted to ask you if you can share, if you think of anything that could resonate from Design Thyself, that athletes, cyclists, our listeners could go to Design Thyself and get some education or some help or reach you. Any thoughts on that you would like to share?
I have a YouTube channel, so I share psychology-based insights and tools that help people design meaningful lives. I then have my website. On my website, I have a short workbook which is designed to orient people towards their goals and achieve them through a mindful practice. But now that you mentioned this, a thought jump in my head, which is, what if we could design together a workbook that is based on psychology and it's for performance and athletic achievement? I would be interested in that if you were too.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. Would love that. Would love to give our insights and different, because Debbie and I also, even though we're both cyclists, we have different disciplines. So
different life experiences. Yeah.
Yes. And that
Yeah.
shapes, that forms everything. So there's so many different sides there.
So we can work on that. We'll be honored to. And
Me,
we'll
I would love-
add your website and YouTube channel. And you also have your own podcast. We will add all this in our episode description so the listeners can find you in any of those platforms.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitris.
Thank you
You're
so
wonderful.
much.
It was a pleasure.
Likewise.
Take it easy.
Bye. That's all for today's episode. We want to thank you, our listeners, for tuning in. Your support means everything to us. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with your friends. Feel free to share your thoughts and feedback. We love hearing from you.